I hear how many people say that they just tell their groups when they come in groups of 15 or 20 that the singles club is kind of the meetup place for them. If you ever get lost or you can't find your group, it's always go back and meet at the singles club. We're glad to provide that for everybody, and we're glad to provide a real fun time in the hobby for everyone.
Jameel Muhammad and Jeff Cardozo dive into the hobby, which is sports cards, trading cards, as well as all other collectibles, right now on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast, live from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill.
Hey everybody, welcome. Another Meelypod Hobby Podcast coming your way inside Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We are in the Meldon Law Studios here in the podcast room. He is Jameel Muhammad. I am Jeff Cardozo, and we are ready to get after it. Not like he's going to get after it in a couple of weeks when the National rolls around, but it feels like the dog days of summer a little bit. If you don't care about Major League Baseball, football's not that big of a deal. You do have some college teams practicing, but nobody can see that or cares. But we do have a little NBA talk with the rookies making appearances this week, so anxious to talk to him about that. And I guess the WNBA is a big deal too. So maybe let's start there. The first time in the history of shows, you start off with the WNBA. But man, you see, Sophie Cunningham still fighting, and all this talk. They made this a big deal. What's going on with the hobby?
I like how you brought up Sophie Cunningham first. Yeah, everybody,
nice
every male brings her up first when they talk about the WNBA. No, it's pretty amazing what's happened with just, I think, the influx in the hobby with how many people are interested. And just this past, it was about 2 weeks ago on a Monday, Panini had their big release. So the National Treasures, Flawless, high-end WNBA, they all package it into one set called Rookie Royalty. And they came out with these boxes on a Dutch auction. And everybody got turned off because they said that the initial starting price for one box with two cards was going to be $30,000.
Oh, my goodness.
So everybody was like, what in the world? There's no WNBA product like this. It's not worth it. So the product on Dutch auction is every 2 minutes they drop. And the floor is $3,000. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, $3,000 is not a bad price considering what's in these products. You get either an Angel Reese or a Caitlin Clark autograph, so it's very polarizing product. Especially if you don't like me bounds. People, they just get upset when they get the Angel Reese. But there's also Downtown Kabooms as well that are put into it, and so it was kind of under the radar, to be honest. And the Dutch auction came around, and I was on there. I bought a couple boxes at the $5,000, the $4,000 mark, and I had probably 10 or so in my cart at $4,000. I thought I should buy more, and I got a little greedy, waited till it got to the floor, and it immediately sold out. Well, what's the resale on this? Well, Wednesday rolls around, everybody gets their boxes, and they're breaking at $8,000 and $9,000 a box. Just this week, these WNBA boxes have sold for they're selling for $12,000 to $13,000 a box.
Holy cow!
So big lesson in trust your gut.
Yeah.
I was doing the numbers. I was trying to get maybe 20 or 30 of them, but I got greedy. And if I did, and I had resold them today, that's a $250,000 loss.
Oh my
you know what I mean? So just thinking about how you can really pay attention and know the market and trust your gut. There's a good lesson in that. But it's just one of these things. These cards are wild, and there's some big Caitlin Clarks that are coming out of it. I know that there was a gold Kaboom that I was watching in a break, and I think we offered $65,000, $70,000 for it, and it sold for $75,000 like that. That was number out of 10. Her green Kaboom got hit, the 101, which I think is valued at $300,000, $400,000. So these are really high end, high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, on these boxes. So some of the 101s have been hit, but there's a couple still left, and it's just a very interesting world we're in, man.
I guess it's hard to sit there and fathom those types of numbers unless you're, you have it to throw away and have fun with it. But how is that sustainable? What if she doesn't pan out, or what if something happens? But I guess because people might think that she's maybe the next Michael Jordan. We saw what that happened in that, world with him, and just what it's turned into. It is probably worth the investment.
There was never
what she's done.
Right. There's no $30,000 packs in 1986 to 1996. You know what I mean? But the thing with this is there's so much hype built into Caitlin Clark and what she represents, and she's got to be a top 5 most recognizable athlete in the world right now. I would think, specifically, definitely in our country.
Sure.
And I think if somebody who's making that argument, who is she more famous than in almost every sport? LeBron, Kobe, Steph, people like Luka. But then probably Caitlin Clark's right in that mix. You know what I mean? So when you have this kind of oomph from a new sport with a new brand, I don't know, but I think that because these are the rookie card logo ones, I think there is some lasting value there. Now, how high is it going to go? Could they even go higher? Every time I doubt her, she seems to keep going up. So
and it does. It just everybody knows her name, and I think that's what certainly helps the industry and what's going on. And I think from now the men's side, everybody knows Cooper Flagg. We'll see him this week play for the first time. You'll see the Harper, the number 2 pick, play for the first time. We've already seen Walter Clayton. We've already seen Ace Bailey, who was really good. I guess Monday night. So. Does this now maybe impact some of the things? I know the chase was always everybody wants Cooper Flagg and some of these hot rookies, but does it make it even more polarizing once we get to see them in a uniform?
Yeah, so now you're starting to see, people, how these guys mesh together, how they play. It was fun to see Walter Clayton go against Johnny Broom again, right, and dominate. But is Ace Bailey, all that kind of talk and the worry about him, is it kind of faltered away, or what are we going to do with the Jazz? Jazz are an interesting team because they really hadn't done much in the last couple of years, and now you have this young core with Keontae George and both Ace and Walter Clayton. Who knows what happens with that team and what kind of numbers he's put up? But everybody is kind of starting to shift to basketball. They're starting to see basketball, but you can't forget football, right? Because football's right around the corner. So I think that's kind of where we're at. Basketball kind of has its stake right now. You're getting to see things like some sports and cards that you don't really see, but like Alcaraz and Sinner and Ben Shelton, hometown boy, Wimbledon right now. These cards are kind of see an influx. I've been watching Ben Shelton's cards. They've been almost doubling and tripling from just 6 weeks ago. So fun to kind of see. I mean, that's one thing American tennis could use, right? Sure. A guy like, when's the last guy? Andy Roddick, We have Fritz is also another great player, but we'll see what happens with that in cards, because these guys don't have a lot of rookie card autographs. So.
And the crazy part is, for those of you that are actually watching and not listening to this on a podcast, it's Jameel almost wore what Ben Shelton does. The cut-off sleeves and the all white, but I know you don't like to show off too much when it's on video.
Yeah.
But it's a good look. I've seen it.
July 4th, that's what I was repping.
It makes it work. All right. Well, speaking of repping some stuff, so I guess it was about 2 weeks ago, a buddy of mine sends me a link to an eBay auction. And I'm like, man, I haven't looked at eBay in forever. Like, what is this? And it is a baseball cap, of the 1998 baseball regional in Gainesville.
Ooh.
So that's the year that we went to the World Series. Yeah. So he's like, I thought you would like this. And how it was like $32 or something. So I bought it just for nostalgia purposes. But then I'm sitting there, man, I used to go on eBay all the time. Like, I used to get, all these guys that I played with early on, I'd get their minor league cards, and you'd buy a lot of, 100 cards of the same thing for like $2.
Yeah.
And, I have all these random cards I don't want, but they're all guys I played with or, played against, and I thought it was fun. But so then I started just after that looking through eBay, and I'm thinking, okay, well, that's cool. Like, there's a million cards on there. And I know we've talked about it a little bit, and it's not like it's in one ear out the other, but like it's a world of just a million different things. And I know that you were talking about there are even some changing some of the policies. So I haven't gone on there and bid yet, but is this something, a route that maybe people can go after? What's going on with eBay?
Well, if that hat was on the new eBay policy, you might have had to wait a little longer to win it, because what eBay is doing, the first time in, I think, the history of eBay, they're considering changing how auctions end. And this is a big deal, I think, because eBay, for those of you who know, shout out to Card Ladder, our friends at Card Ladder, they have some stats out. I was looking, in the month of June of 2025, there was $305 million in transactions that were recorded amongst eBay, Golden, all the auction houses, and $245 million of that, so the majority percentage, was eBay. Now, that's $250 million in a month. And I think about, if they're going to change the mechanism for how cards are bought, what does that mean? So here's the kind of proposed, what they're kind of beta testing right now, is that in the sports card trading category, that when an auction ends, it doesn't really end if there is a bid placed in the last 2 minutes of that auction. It's called extended bidding. Some of you may be familiar with extended bidding for maybe you've bought something on Golden or Heritage or whatever. But what that does now is extends the auction, and that auction can keep on extending. So let's say you put your max bid in for that hat at $40, and somebody else bids at 26. It's at 26, and they bid at 27. So now that auction's extended, and it's 28, and they can keep on bidding, and those 2 minutes can keep adding on to that auction, which then also, which a lot of people don't think about, puts it in the ending now search for eBay, which a lot of people look at. So now you're attracting more and more buyers for a longer period of time. So it's a concentrated look. And I wonder what that's going to do for card values. It may, in a way, push card values even higher than what we're seeing. Maybe we'll see a 10%, 15% typical increase in cards on eBay just from this extended bidding. So they're beta testing it now. I don't know when it's supposed to come out, but it is very intriguing to me to think that eBay is trying to look a little bit more professional looking like these auction houses.
Yeah, it does feel, because when I did it forever ago, you put in your thing and you get an email whatever later and it says, you won. I was like, or you don't even think about it because you lost and not paying attention. But now if you really want something and now it's going back and forth, that certainly brings more eyes upon it. So
yeah, it make things, I think, a little bit more favorable that are rarer, especially in auctions. And then if auctions are ending at weird times, you may be saved here and there where people can bid and see. So only time will tell. We'll see. But eBay's doing some changes there for sure. Innovation in the hobby is always a good thing. So we'll see where that leads.
That is always a good thing. All right, I know you've talked about expanding the shop here in Gainesville a little bit. So you're going through that. The baby's almost due. You got the National coming up. Like, your world's about to just kind of go crazy here. So luckily you're chilling now and sleeping a little bit. And enjoy some things. But how's the National going? Like, you getting ready?
Good. Yeah. I mean, it's right around the corner. We're going to send a team up there, full team. We'll have kind of our setup, our booth. It's going to be very different. We have a guest on here in segment 2, my buddy Chris, who's another vendor, which will kind of gets a different point of view to talk about the National. But, when you think about the National, it is the biggest card show on earth. Mm-hmm. And how do you prepare for that mentally? We've been preparing physically with cards and pricing and starting to talk about all the things that we take. But it's here. And we just got back from, I think, the greatest sports event on earth, which was the greatest fan event on earth, which is Fanatics Fest, and then we go into the greatest card show on earth.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about, and it's fascinating. You got the All-Star game coming up, certainly in Major League Baseball, so that brings the attention there. Does that change the industry at all? I know not a lot of huge people are in the home run derby, but we've got the $750 million man in Soto doesn't even make the All-Star team.
Crazy,
which is kind of crazy, but. Then you look at where the rankings are and the money line and what you can bid on for MVP voting, and he's third.
Yeah.
So not an all-star, but he's got this name, and I wonder if that's because some of you get the player vote now.
Yeah.
And does that then show that maybe the players don't like him? Is there a knock on him or what? I wonder. Obviously him not making the All-Star team is not going to devalue Juan Soto, but I wonder, as much as you talk about how little things happen within the industry or what's going on in the world, that how some of that stuff might change things.
Yeah, All-Star Game is always kind of a fan event. I think people love it. I think the home run derby, if there's Pete Alonso's stuff, he gets attention. When he wins a home run derby, you see this for other players too. It's got to be exciting too. I think that's a big part of the All-Star Game. But when you talk about Soto and you think about where he's at. I'll flip back a question to you, but yeah, I mean, this is a guy who is playing very well, and the Mets have a pretty good record. So him not being on the All-Star team kind of makes me think like it's going to be based a little bit more on fan voting and hype, and actually how well favorable you are in the league, which is a very interesting to think about. That's what the All-Star game will be, decided, because it never was really like that. But I want to know from you as a pitcher, do you think that Clayton Kershaw should be on the team?
Yeah, it's just, they started doing this veterans vote a few years ago, and I think it's because he got his 3,000th strikeout. Sure. But then remember, you also, and I wonder if there's a little meaning to that, because, usually when the commissioner appoints someone to the All-Star team like they did with Kershaw, that means this is it, like they're retiring. He hasn't announced that yet, but I mean, dude, you just got your 3,000th strikeout. You just won the World Series last year. Like, you don't need to. Your boys are young. I mean, we saw them all in the celebration and coming in and hugging dad. So, I don't know. Maybe it's time to find a Clayton Kershaw card for me or something, because you wonder that stuff, because I don't know anymore how much these milestones are going to be reached.
Sure.
The 300 wins almost seems like outrageous. Have you seen Skeens' stats of late?
They're pretty wild. For
last 13 starts, he's got one win in his last 13 starts. Earned run average is 1.73.
There's no way.
So it's just like, holy smoke. So if you're judging by wins and losses, and that's what puts Paul Skeens in the Hall of Fame, he's never going to get there. Yeah. Although he'll be a Yankee in a couple years when the rookie contract runs out. You wonder. So it's, do these milestones like change the card world? I don't know. Like, I would love to have Nolan Ryan cards or things like that, but it seems like they're not worth that much.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
to get to that milestone.
And then the milestones, do they change like moving forward, right?
Sure.
Do we look more at these space sabermetrics? Do we look more at some of these things? I'm not a baseball head to know all the ins and outs, but do we start to look at different, evaluative methods and then commemorate that? I don't know what's going to happen, but we are in an interesting time. And, for Skeens to have 1 win in 13 starts when his ERA is that is crazy to think, right? It's crazy.
So, yeah, maybe if the patch was still out there, it wouldn't be worth as much.
Yeah.
Because the guy can't win a damn game.
Yeah, you're right. Can't get a dub.
All right. Well, we're going to have a dub talk to his bud, Chris, about the National. I'll pick Jameel's brain a little bit more on that subject as well when we come back here on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast. Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
This is Jameel, owner of the Meelypop shop, Gainesville's home for collectibles of all sorts, including every single type of sports cards, whether it be Panini, Topps, Leaf, Upper Deck. We have it. Come on in, get yourself a box, a pack, get yourself some supplies, get into our breaks, get your Pokemon, get your Yu-Gi-Oh! All the other different kinds of TCG products that we carry and shop are always fully in stock. You can find our stuff on our website as well, meelypops.com. That's another way you can interact with the store, or you can just come into the shop. We're located off 39th Avenue by I-75 behind Walgreens and Sonny's. Stop on by. We're open every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you can check us out on our social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, whatnot, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'd love to see you. Come on out to the shop, have some fun, be a part of the card community here in Gainesville, and always go Gators.
All right, we welcome you back to the Meelypod Hobby Podcast. Jeff and Jameel here inside Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in the podcast room. Meldon Law does our studios, so we appreciate Meldon Law doing it. I'm always on the internet looking at different things. I got a buddy that has a bachelor party soon, so we're looking up stuff, and I saw like the singles club. I was like, ooh, that looks pretty cool. And then, it ended up being not the right thing, but it was perfect because it leads us right into our next guest.
I don't know if we want to be looking at your browsing history, Jeff, but the guy we have on today, Mr. Chris Geis, has been just a staple that I've always seen him at the National. He's always smiling. He's always having fun. And I wanted to bring just kind of a different POV on from a dealer at the show and get to talk a little bit with him. So looks like he's here all the way from North Dakota. I see you, Chris. What's up, man?
Hey, I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me on. Busy with the real job today, running some golf tournaments. But as you know, the singles club is kind of a side hustle for us that we just get together and enjoy with some friends. But happy to have you on. And of course, we always see Jameel around and Meelypops. I think we made some pretty big deals over time with you back and forth, both of us. And so it's been good to see you guys and excited to talk to both of you, Jeff and Jameel.
Appreciate it, man. Well, we, the National is right around the corner, and it's funny because you and I have been there and done so much with the National. We've had ideas here and there. We have all these crazy deals going on. You have ventured through things like blowout forums or how you sell. I'm not sure all the social media places you're on, but like one thing that I always impresses me is not only are you excited to be there and you're happy to be there, but you just move a lot of single cards, right? I mean, that's where the singles club from, and it's amazing what you do, man.
We kind of lucked out, my partner Cody, we've been best friends for, ever. We're first cousins and we've been best friends forever. And, we started getting back into cards as our kids got a little older and we started to talk about it. And, we were lucky 8 years ago in Cleveland on a whim, we called and got a booth and we had all these cards because we kept buying collections and we kept the nice stuff that we wanted. And I'm like, we can't go enter. We don't have the big massive stuff like so many of these people. But how can we get in and how can we stand out for everybody? And I said, let's make it easy. Everything's a buck and let's roll. And the first year we took 75,000 cards and we sold every card and we sold out at the end. And
wow,
that's just become our thing. And, we've gotten up to where we take, $250,000 to 300,000 cards. We've lowered our price to 50 cents because a lot of people came on top of the dollars and they all wanted to be dollar. So we're like, hey, we got to stand out again. So for our 5th anniversary, we went to 50 cents. And, you've seen the boxes, Jameel. You've seen what goes through there. It's no common stuff. It's colors, it's refractors, it's numbered, it's low numbered, it's Hall of Fame. It's, we've kept it fresh. And this is our week to really have a good time. We don't sell anywhere like eBay or anything like that. So when we have piles and piles of up to $5, $10 cards, we have nothing to do with them other than just keep stacking them in these boxes, and then we bring
Yeah.
them and cut it loose.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the best thing about the National, right? I came back. I just got back from Fanatics Fest, and it's a very concentrated fan experience with also high end dealers. But the National offers something for everybody, and like I'm sure you could go through Chris's boxes and find some gems too. But like he's got dollar cards, 50-cent cards, right? And I think that's and another thing that you mentioned, Chris, too, is like you do this as a side hustle, and I love the fact that like the National brings out all these big side hustles, right? As well, you meet people from all over the country that do it on the side.
Yeah, it's our vacation. I mean, Cody brings his daughter. My daughter's been there a couple times. My son has been there. He's bringing his girlfriend this year. Our parents have been involved. Just everybody's been involved, and it really is. It's a week for us to get away from what we do for real jobs. Bray Fox is with us. He's a full-time teacher, so just a chance for us to get away from it, enjoy it as much as anybody, and move some stuff. And we love it when somebody's digging in our box. And we used to make videos about it where they'd be like, "Hey, I spent $62 at the Singles Club, and this is going to be $400 on eBay." We're happy to have that because we don't have the time to do it. So if somebody walks away happy, and again, the repetition. I mean, we've made so many friends that come back every year and they stand in line, and that's kind of our thing, right? Is we don't open it until 3 o'clock on Wednesday night during the sneak peek. And my favorite thing is shooting the video when the line is 30 people long to get in there. People don't believe it until we share the video. But again, Jameel, you've been there, you've seen it.
Yeah, and I mean that's awesome because obviously you've put like a little niche down, and people come and they understand it and they want to come back. So for those that maybe are coming then for the first time, maybe from a dealer perspective for you, like, and probably not a lot of negotiating with what you guys do, but when you see like how to interact with people and what to expect, what are some of the things that you would encourage people to do if they're coming as just a normal person?
I think the biggest thing is, or the most important thing right off the thing, I mean, let's just enjoy it and be respectful, right? Like, I think that's the biggest thing to make that whole place go. You look at how many people are in that building, and everybody's trying to get the tables, especially the last 5 years, right? When it's like fighting to get the tables and fighting to dig through a value box, or, look into somebody's display case. And I mean, we're all there for the same thing, but I mean, just enjoy it and remember that, we always talk about hobby first and things like that. We realize what a business it's turned into for so many people. So, but realize that of all those people making that trip in there, 80-90%, this is their first time, and we want it to be a good experience. And that's what we always worry about on the Singles Club is, when somebody leaves the Singles Club, hey, was it a good experience? Are they going to tell somebody how much fun they had? Are they going to say, you got to stop over at booth 2506 and see those guys? Or, so that's my biggest thing, especially if you're a first timer. You're not going to see everything. Go see what you can. Maybe you can't get to a table. Write a note, make a note, come back to it, pound it in your phone, and be like, "Hey, we want to go back to row 400." And that's where I would start. And if you're bringing littles, you're bringing your kids with or whatever. Little small kids, you got to work from the outside in because it gets a little chaotic in the middle. But we've seen what that looks like too. But yeah, that's my big thing is let's all enjoy it and realize that, hey, if I miss out on a great deal from Jameel, I love to do a deal with him or love to do a deal with somebody. But let's go hunt down the next one because that's the most fun for us, right? Like. We sell dollar boxes, but if you watch where Cody and I do our shopping, we're hanging out in other people's dollar boxes, which is really crazy to me. So I don't understand that part of it.
It's a sickness we all have.
It's what we enjoy.
Yeah, we say we enjoy it, but it's just a sickness we all want. Yeah. We all when you feel agitated if you're behind your booth too long, you have to go look at what else is out there. But no, I'm listening to you, man. It's funny you say too, like 8 years ago you called and got a booth. Like I don't think you can do that anymore, right? With the National, it's wild how much it's grown.
Yeah, and people think that, like, oh my gosh, Singles Club, what a great name. People, we've had T-shirts, we've had people make jokes about it. We've had, Dr. Beckett hangs out at our booth 8 hours every day. We get him lunch and stuff like that. And we're like, hey, don't tell your wife you're at the Singles Club, and we all laugh about it and stuff like that. But honestly, and I've told this story before, so you guys may have heard it, but I call Cody from my office and I say, hey, let's do the National in Cleveland. We got to get rid of all this stuff. Let's just take everything for $1. And he's like, yeah, we got to have a catchy name. 4 seconds later, he says, how about Singles Club? I said, done. I called Megan. They had a table. We were in. And now that's like gold to be the fact that you're in. And so it came together fast. It's grown into something that, I hear how many people say that they just tell their groups when they come in groups of 15 or 20 that the Singles Club is kind of the meetup place for them. If you ever get lost or you can't find your group, it's always go back and meet at the Singles Club. We're glad to provide that for everybody. And, we're glad to provide a real fun time in the hobby for everyone.
So we're making it sound so like it's all peaches and roses and bunnies and balloons, but the truth is it gets pretty hectic in there. And as a vendor, there's a lot happening. There's so many people. You worry about theft and all these kinds of things. And so I know how wild it gets. So let me take a spin on this really quick, Chris. So I know that it gets hectic. I know things are wild, but I look forward to specific things with the National when I go as a vendor, and I enjoy tidbits here and tidbits there. I'd love to hear like from your side, and I think this is cool for our listeners too. Like when we go to when an average attendee goes to the National, they're expecting vendors to be hard nosed and not enjoy it, but they're just there for the money. Granted, there's a financial success that we all have with it, but outside of that, like what is it that you look forward to, and what makes you smile when you think about the National?
I think our favorite thing is just, Cody always talks about how we spend 51 weeks getting ready for 1 week and it goes by so fast, right? Like it just blazes. And, what we look forward to is, my favorite time each morning, obviously, is that first half hour when we get in there and things are a mess and you're putting it back together and then people start the buzz. There's just that buzz, right? Every morning it's that same buzz. And the energy that comes in that room when those doors open, that's really something we look forward to, is how exciting that gets. And then as the day gets quieter, you get a little late in the day. You're like, man, it's been 8 hours. I've been on my feet. We're going. Trust me, finding the right shoes is important for that place. Yeah. But, you're there 8 hours and you're grinding and it flew by and you're like, God, can it be 4 o'clock already or 5 o'clock? And things start to settle a little bit. And then I like to sneak away from the booth. I get out and I see some of the people that I see every year and I visit and pick up a couple things to take back to the hotel room, and maybe we're going to rip some wax back there at night and stuff. But just the overall buzz is just something you can't, unless you've been there, it's so hard to explain, right? Like when those doors open, and we've all been to big conventions and stuff, but the overall buzz and somebody who's screaming from the Tops booth because they opened something and they got something going there, and and how every day kind of starts the same, and the energy comes. I mean, by Thursday and Friday, you're wiped out from working so hard. It takes all day Monday and Tuesday to get set up. Wednesday, you're setting up. Wednesday night is a late night. But every morning, that energy that just kind of invigorates you to, hey, let's go have another great day. And the day flies by, and now we're going to go hit up a couple trade nights, and by then we're ready to be good. But the energy that comes in that room is our highlight, and that's really what I look forward to. It's Definitely. Not making a big deal, or it's not a big sale. It's just the overall energy of so many people excited to be in one spot that'll enjoy the hobby.
Yeah, just the picture you're painting, you can see it. It's almost like, what you see for Black Friday back in the day. Everybody's bursting through the Walmart doors to get into the room. Chris, it's fascinating. I and often talk to people from North Dakota. Obviously, no sports up there or different things going on. But I played with a guy from South Dakota many, many moons ago, Mark Ellis, and he had a long big league career, a Gator here. And but like when you go to something like this, like, are you looking for anything particular, like, or maybe that someone come through your junior golf program or anything that's cool? Like, do you go try to find anybody?
Well, we're big Yankees fans. I don't know how somebody in North Dakota ends up being a Yankees fan. In fact, my son's name is Garrick and my daughter's name is Brooklyn, and Cody, partner, we're both big Yankees fans. So, we'll pick up some cool game used cards of maybe a Mantle or a Bear or a Jeter or something. Those are the kind of things that we really like. Every now and then something cool, just the stuff that comes across the table to you, like that catches you. You're like, hey, we got to have this. This is real. I haven't seen this. Or and last year at Cleveland National, we picked up some really cool autograph stuff that just doesn't come by very often. And we don't really set our sights on one thing in particular. I mean, we're like everybody. We kind of spread across the board what we like, but just Yankees has always been who we're after. I mean, grew up as a Don Mattingly fan. That's kind of dates me as I'm older than you guys, so that tells you what that is. But any of the vintage Yankee stuff that comes through the singles club, we get our hands on it. That's usually going home to the vault.
Nice.
Yankee stuff. You heard it first here. If you need to do a little dollar swapping, 50-cent card swap, and bring some Yankees,
bring your Yankee stuff
to the booth and see Chris and the team.
And that is the one thing. We have two tables, two booths, and 75% of it is the singles club. But we've kind of moved with the market here, and we've added some slabs and stuff too, which we haven't. And last year was the first year that we brought a lot of slabs, and they didn't. We had 5,000 slabs last year that didn't last but about 12 minutes. Somebody took them all, so that was an interesting day to tell you the least. But our roots are the singles club, and just seeing everybody come and fill their boxes and fill shoe boxes and make deals with us. That's what we love, and that's what keeps the hobby going. Everybody's got to move something, and we're happy there to move a little bit of everything.
Yeah, man. What booth number are you going to be? Do you have it off the top of your head?
2506 and 2607, I believe is. Yeah, we're in. Come in the main doors, take a right. You won't miss us.
Come in the main doors, take a right, go to the singles club. Don't tell your ladies that, but go to the singles club,
right.
and you will leave with a smile. But Chris Geis, man, thank you so much for being on. We'll see you in a few weeks, man.
Hey, Jeff, Jameel, appreciate you guys for thinking of us. Always love what you guys do. See you putting stuff out there. Can't wait to visit with you guys.
All right, sounds good. Chris Geis,
right.
everybody joining us. Now back to his real job.
Yeah.
So
All right.
that's all right.
Thanks, guys.
See you, man.
So really, cool, and I think that's an awesome perspective because everybody's different, and obviously he started with a little niche, and then certainly it grew, and I guess it turned into something even bigger last year with all the slabs and everything else. But it just like I guess tell people more about that. He's sitting there describing just the energy and what it is. Like, what's the difference in the energy from now what you've seen at Fanatics Fest the last couple of years to what this show is?
I think Fanatics Fest is much more based on what's going to happen next, right? Like, who's going to be here, where am I going to go? And it's there. You kind of get that fact of like people just kind of searching. Whereas at the National, it's really about what like. He's right on the Tuesday and Wednesday when it opens. Like there's so many people that come for the first look, on cards, and then it kind of transcends into a long Thursday, a long Friday. Saturday is when most people come that have off. So it's just this long, long week. But I think what's happening, the excitement and the energy is just more balanced. It's everywhere, right? And there's so many different things happening. It's not as much hype as I would say as Fanatics Fest was. Okay. But I think from the economics of the situation, you think about how much value is actually in this 500,000 square feet convention center, the Rosemont Convention Center in Chicago, and it's got to be in the billions. Like people say hundreds and hundreds of millions. I definitely disagree. I think we're at places now where you go to one booth and there's $2 million in cards, wow. $5 million in wax, $10 million in wax, like. And again, all the high-end stuff that the auction houses bring out. So the cool thing is you get to see more of the collector mentality. There'll be a lot of things set up. And I am going to see – I can see the steps that Fanatics Fest is taking, Jeff, where it's like they're trying to become more of this. They want to have it more collector-based and have a lot of these incredible opportunities for people, these activations for people to have. But I do think the National is going to be the card show, for a while. We'll see where it goes, the next 5 years. But it's a wildly exciting time with almost every possible card you could ever imagine.
Well, and I guess that is the cool part because I sit there and I imagine it's Manals and just all these high end cards, or you're looking for rookies and all that. But to have an opportunity when you're bringing your kids and they can go through a 50-cent box or a $1 box and find some of their heroes or just favorite team guys and that kind of stuff. So it is really for everybody, it seems like.
You didn't really get that at Fanatics Fest, right? You're not going to be able to go spend $20 and get 10 of your favorite players, right? Yeah. You might get one of your favorite players at Fanatics Fest if you're lucky, but it's just the kind of mentality that it is. And, being in the Midwest versus New York City, I think that kind of speaks a lot about volumes of what you're attracting, the fan base types of things. I do love the Midwest. I mean, I'm a Cardinals fan. I grew up watching the Cardinals, but, just thinking about Chicago in general, the Stinky Cubs and, the Bulls and the Bears, and not just that, I mean, every other team around that area, there's so much fandom that comes to the National, and I can respect that a lot too.
Sure.
These are people who just come in there. They might have spent quite a bit of money that they have, but they're trying to get there just so they can be a part of experience to maybe spend a couple $100. You know what I mean? And I really appreciate that. And I think that's an awesome thing that the hobby offers.
He mentioned the booth number 2506. Does that mean like they're 2,506 booths? Like, what are we looking at?
Yeah,
numbers wise?
It'd be nice that was. There. I think it's over 1,000 booths, but you got to remember there's corporate areas, and then you have grading on site. So that's a big part that we don't even talk about a lot. But PSA, BGS, CGC, SGC, all being on site, grading on site, which is a big deal, right? Like, I mean, most people submit cards to us to send away and have to wait. You don't have to do that at the National. It's, gimme, let me get my card now, baby. So that's a big element. And, I talk a lot about this. We're going to be doing some content for the shop and posting it soon on this YouTube channel. But there's a world there, too, of how people can make money. Like making money through grading, taking raw cards, or even buying raw cards at the National, grading them on site, and then taking them and selling them and making the trip a profitable trip, not just a fun trip. So there's worlds inside of worlds when it comes to the National.
Now, you're making money. Like if I put my little card savvy hat on, can I make money? I mean, he went and made $75,000 by selling dollar cards his first time. Like how do a little schmuck like me get into this?
I mean, you're tall schmuck, not a little one. Okay. Tall schmuck. But Here's the thing: if you take your savviness and you work hard in this show, if you take $1,000, if you take $5,000, $10,000, $100,000, there's a world that you can double that, or maybe even triple up on some of that money.
Wow.
Working throughout that week. Now, I tell a lot of young people this too, like. If you're really set and you're focused and you go to all the show and you work and you hustle deals and you find people buying cards that you could buy at this booth and take to that booth and make 15-20%, and then you go to every single trade night, you will be successful. It used to be, a guy could take $10,000 and they'd make $5,000-$10,000 and it'd be a huge win. Now you can take $10,000 and if you're savvy enough and if you grade and if you do this, you're probably you probably could walk away with $50,000,
wow.
maybe $100,000. So I think that's a world that we're seeing more of, and I call them the mobile dealers. We weren't able to get any on the podcast. Maybe we'll have them on in the future. Some of these kind of folks that are dealing on a high end level, and they're not set up as vendors. They're just walking around with $250,000, $500,000, $1 million in their little, Zion, suitcase, Zion card case. Sorry, not the suitcase, but they're walking around and making tons and tons of deals. So it's a world within a world. I think a lot of people can't fathom it. Like they look at it, they're like, "There's no way that's possible," but it's actually happening. And the one thing that I always tell people is because cards are the size of a cell phone, not like sneakerheads who have boxes of shoes,
sure.
right? Or not like video game people have massive video game comics take up so much space. Cards can fit very compactly, and you can have a very concentrated amount of money. Guy could be walking around. I've seen guys walk into National with literally handcuffs on their hand to their case because their case is worth $3 million, or whatever it may be. Guys walk around with security because they have so much money in cards on them. So interesting to think about, as we tackle in 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, spoiler alert, if you watch the new Jurassic Park, somebody else handcuffed a suitcase to his face and might have lost his hand.
Ooh, interesting.
Be careful. Don't
Interesting.
Be, dinosaurs running through the room.
I'll have to get you some Jurassic Park cards.
He mentioned trade night too. Like, what's involved with that? Like, is this kids just going in and hanging out with guys like Chris, or what's going on?
There's a conglomeration of people that get together, and it's typically male. I mean, the ladies are being more represented, which is cool to see more ladies getting into the hobby. We'll have some more, of course, ladies on. We celebrated some back in March, but we want to have more ladies, on to talk about the growth in that. But trade nights to me are a way for you to interact with somebody on a one-to-one basis, not a dealer-customer basis, right? Dealer-customer, there's sometimes some dealers are very tough. Some dealers want a higher percentage, but it's an equal playing field. And the trade nights, they are incredible. I mean, you have thousands of people. We had Freddie Wiebe on with his two sons, Ronnie and Danny. Go back and look at that episode. They talked about going to the National and how much fun the trade nights were, and they just started in the hobby. You know what I mean? So it's this world where there's so much opportunity, and the reason why I love trade night, it takes me back to my roots, is that it's a concentrated opportunity with a set amount of time. So you got 3 hours or 5 hours to do your best, and usually the trade nights are at the end of the show, so you're exhausted. So everybody's fatigued and ready to go. You have to get your Mountain Dews and energy drinks going, but it's a fun time because so much is happening, and you meet people from all over the world. I met people all over the world trading cards, and I think that's really special.
Well, something else special too, and it makes me think, wanting to ask you. He says sometimes just stuff comes to your booth that you didn't even know was out there. Like, do you have any of those where, like, you were going through somebody's collection, a mobile dealer or whatever, and you see a card and you're like, holy crap, that's really cool. I need to have that.
You don't know it exists. You're like, what is this card?
Yeah.
Where did this come from? What is this one of one that probably never surfaced? That is a fun part about the National, seeing really cool cards. The only problem with that is I always want the really cool cards. So for my own personal collection, so I have to kind of taper that. You get walk-ups all the time, and again, I'm not talking about a $500 walk-up or a collection worth $20,000. People will walk up with cards that are $500,000, $1 million, and you're just like blown away by that. 1 year I remember when Luka was super hot. I had never seen the card, but a FOTL NT RPA out of 3 came up to, and the guy wanted like $900,000, and just very casual, like $900K. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff is a reality at the National. You can also see those cards in people's booths and walk around. You might see a 52 Topps Mantle PSA 8, PSA 9. I don't think you'll see the 10s, but you may see those cards at the event, and that to me is like it opens up a lot of doors. And can you imagine a little kid seeing that and thinking like how much money that card is, but then that sets a goal for them. They want to get into this. I want to get to that stage one day, or even half that stage one day. So there is some wild stuff you see, and stuff that you never thought you'd see for sure.
I'm just impressed you knew FPNTC whatever on that Luca card. That was impressive.
I got all the acronyms. FOTL RPA out of 3. There you go.
FOTL RPA out of 3.
You got it. Yeah.
Impressive stuff right there. That's why he's the best. He's Jameel. I am Jeff. We'll take another break. We'll come back and tell you about some of the new wax coming out. And he gave me something that I got back that I'm going to pick his brain on too. You're listening to the Meelypod Hobby Podcast.
Albert, Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
All right, we welcome you back. Jeff and Jameel here. And if you are anywhere out there and you have some of these cards that we're sitting there talking about, unique stuff, then CGC is a great place to really take those to, send them off to, because they're one of the nation's leading grading companies. Submit your collectibles, your sports cards, your trading cards, your comics, your coins, your video games, all this other stuff. I once again looked at a really cool thing that I had. It was, speaking of games, I from a golf tournament, speaking with Chris's and little ties with golf, I ended up buying a Mike Tyson's Punch-Out like picture, and it had a Nintendo controller on the bottom framed, and I got it from a golf tournament just to help out the charity, but it was signed by Mike Tyson. So I'm going to have to make sure that I send that to CGC and authenticate that bad boy.
That's right.
Hopefully it's real. I'd be mad if not, because it was a cool piece.
I don't know. Some of those golf auctions, I'm going to say a little 50-50 on them. But
just like my Emmitt Smith from 25 years ago.
Did you play it? Did you play Mike Tyson back in the day?
I did.
Yeah.
Really, really cool.
There we go.
And, there's people actually coming out now, I guess. People are saying that Jake Paul's a fraud and all his fights are rigged, and it's like a big deal, and now he's suing them, and maybe it's a way to stay relevant. I need some Jake Paul stuff.
There you go, Jake Paul, and he was at Finaccess last year with Libby Dunn, and she was there again this year. She bought another Paul Skeens card. So, Jake Paul, interesting character for sure.
He is definitely that. All right, any interesting wax
coming
out this week?
So the one box that I think a lot of people are really excited about is 24-25 Mosaic basketball. Now, they've had Mosaic forever in football and basketball, and baseball even as well. Panini has made basketball product, and it's kind of been one of these off tier, maybe the Temu Prism, I'll call it, where it's a cheaper version of Prism that people kind of buy. There's a lot of retail options. Well, this year they really condensed it into a very small, I think it's 3 or 4 packs, and inside each Mosaic box you can hit Color Blast cards, which have never been before in Mosaic. There's a lot of hype around this product. I've got all different people calling about, can I get it? Breakers calling, trying to get it. So I'm excited about it. It does release this week. So Mosaic Basketball Hobby will be kind of a fun rip. And, of course, you're going to have all the main guys, Luka, LeBron. You can have rookies of, Connect and Stephen Castle and these kinds of things. So there's going to be a lot of fun chases in it. But also those Color Blast chases and the other inserts that they have will be pretty big. I think stained glass as well. So it's going to be highly, highly sought after. We also have Topps Chrome UFC Mega Boxes and the Blasters coming out, which I know Chrome UFC has been done really well. Good, strong rookie class and the hobby versions that came out last week. If you're a soccer folk, they have the new Chrome Bundesliga 2025 Topps coming out, and then also Prism K-League, which is the Korean League soccer as well. The big release coming out next week will be in the non-sports category with the new Pokemon Black and White set, which is another crazy set. Off the chains, everybody calling about it. It's exciting to see how that's going to be panning out. I know we haven't had a Pokemon guest on in a while. We'll work on that, but the Pokemon market is at a all-time high. I mean, it just keeps getting stronger. And every time me and Joe and the guys in the shop talk about this, we're like, yeah, it's probably going to teeter out. Bubble's going to pop. Nope, bubble gets bigger. You know what I mean? It's like that one kid with the snot bubble that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. In elementary school, that's exactly what's happening. It's crazy.
I don't know if you saw the story the other day. I just happened to be scrolling through something and saw it, and it was in California, either Sam's or Costco, one of those, and they had some Pokemon cards. And, I guess 2 guys started fighting, and one guy got stabbed.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
It was that important to get whatever Pokemon they had, and dude just... so it's definitely crazy.
Pikachu with a knife, meme or something in the streets of LA. That might be the new thing. People are fanatical about it, and I think what happens, and this is kind of a PSA, I guess, a public service announcement. there's a lot of people who will like leave their work or they'll stop working as much and they'll start flipping cards and they taste the good side of it in the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, then what happens is the stuff gets more limited, gets diluted, there's not as much of it, more people are trying to buy it, and then now people's livelihoods get tied into this and emotions get into it. And it's unfortunate because these things happen. We remember even COVID, the guy got shot at a Target and killed. So these kinds of things are happening more and more. I just encourage people to really think about what they're doing. And remember, it's really not, you're not going to be able to flip retail arbitrage all the time. You're not always going to be able to go to Costco and these places to get this stuff. They're going to have stronger limits on what they put out. They're going to make the quantities limited. So just kind of, I think as Chris, was talking about a side hustle, it's good to have this as a side hustle, but to always, unless you're really serious about it, right?
Yeah.
Like kind of, building shops or, breaking brands or whatever you're doing, unless you're really serious about it, treat it as a side hustle. You know what I mean? So it's not your primary form.
Well, side hustle for me back in high school. Hopefully my parents aren't listening to this because I used to so the Braves spring trained about 30 minutes from where I grew up down in West Palm Beach. So I would act like I was going to school in the morning and I'd drive down to West Palm, and it was the Braves and the Expos at the time. So that was the heyday of the Expos. It was like 94. That was the year of the strike, but it was, Pedro on the Expos.
Moses Alou was there?
Yeah, Moses Alou, Cliff Floyd. Like guys like that. John Wetland was the closer for the Expos, I think, at the time. But then, of course, all the Braves, it was Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz, Avery. So I would, get all these guys. So I'd be one of the few that would be there as they pulled up in their cars, getting ready to go. I'd say hi, get a picture, and get an autograph, and then kind of make my way into
disposable
school.
cameras, right?
Yes, that don't even working.
Selfie disposables. Yeah.
So a lot of cool things, but so I knew I had a card in my collection, so I brought it to you, and we'll put this up on screen. But it's Greg Maddux, but in a Cubs uniform. So obviously, I was a huge Maddux fan. Yeah, so you don't like the card. But I got him to autograph it. Now, I wish I would have known you back then in 1994 because I get it in a black Sharpie, but that's all I had because I was stupid. But if it's on a black background, but you sent it away to a authentication company, and guess what? It came back authentic. So what does that mean?
That means it's not fake. That's great. I mean, this is a cool card because not only is it Greg Maddux, he doesn't like to sign things. I'm going to show you something, Jeff. I'm going to pull up the app here and we're going to scan it. We're going to see how many of these actually exist.
Okay.
So how many of these are graded by this company and how many of them, let's see here. There you go. Let's see if it captures it. Now maybe we'll just do the back here. There we go. So scan it. These are all the grading companies have these apps. So this is a 1993 Topps gold, black gold label. And it's telling us that because we just got this back, they haven't uploaded. I think this is going to be a population 1. Now, there are some populations higher. Okay, so what does this mean? There's 128. Sorry, I take that back.
Okay.
128 that are graded higher because they've been graded. But there's only 128 cards that he signed like this in general.
Really?
And so that's pretty rare for a 1993 Topps insert card because Greg Maddux and the black gold cards, their burst probably made 400,000 of these cards.
Sure.
And so it's quite unique to have that sign. So
now
cool. you have a really rare 128 of them graded. This is an authentic. It means it's slabbed. It's done by PSA. It's got the whole card identifiers on it. And now you got something worthwhile.
So this counts as graded with the authentic and not like a card grade?
The card is deemed authentic and the autograph is deemed authentic.
Okay.
So you got double authenticity on this.
So then is it worth, if that's the case, to eventually try to grade that as like a 9 or 10?
You could. Now
would that increase the value?
Yeah, it's a great question. So these black gold cards are tricky. You can see the top to bottom is not centered right or at the bottom. You're going to really want to get like a 7 or probably an 8 or higher.
Okay.
And so something like this can be very tricky because we crack it back out of this to grade or we send it and let's say it gets a 6 or a 7. I think that actually hurts the value of it.
Right.
So,
okay. So leave it as is.
Yeah, and the nice thing about grading too now, you can grade the card. You can grade the auto. We could send it back and say, is that a 10 auto? It's tricky because it's a black auto with a black background. So we have to kind of look at that a little differently. But this card to me is super unique in just what it is. I would probably leave it as is.
Okay.
I think he did great with it because he's probably not signing many more Topps black gold cards from 93. And that was a big chase card back in the day.
Was it really?
The black gold cards were
I remember those being cool.
Really cool looking, so.
They were cool actually before the prisms were cool.
Yeah, we should take a selfie with it with a disposable camera really quick.
Do it. All right. Well, what else is cool, and this might be worth cracking open as you sit here and talk about. I also had a Steve Spurrier card, so we're in the podcast room, of course. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I mean, it looks beat up even from my casual eye. I can tell it's probably not going to come back like a 10, but You got it graded for me, and it came back a little something.
Yeah, so this is the Spurrier Pro Action card where he's punting. I remember our first episode, go back and check the archives. He talks about this card and liking this card a lot. It's his rookie card, you know what I mean? It's from that 72 set. And a 6 is not a bad grade on this. And what I tell people sometimes is grade a card, because if you have the ability to get it autographed and you know that like the card is a 6. Now, this is a vintage card. Mm-hmm. This Maddox is not a vintage card. Sure. That should be a 9 or a 10, right? This should be a 6 or higher. Now, if you had an 8 or a 9 and you got autographed, now you're talking big money, right? So this kind of thing for me is like you can make a decision now. If I wanted to crack it out and get a grade, and Coach Ferrier doesn't manhandle it, it's probably going to get a 6 with an auto on it, which would be authentic. Or I could just keep the card as is and have a rookie card. And I think for a 6, that's a great number to have. Slab, because it has a premium, but it's not super high end.
I guess back in the day, and it was weird for me to do this because I was always told like getting an autograph on a card like worsened the card or devalued it. But obviously now it seems like industry wise, especially if you had this Spurrier and maybe having the ability to get Coach to autograph it, do autograph cards now probably increase the value? Yeah,
I mean there's probably, let me think how many, 3 things here that I would take into account whenever you're getting a card that you want to get autographed. Number one, if you can get the rookie card autographed, always go for that. One of the rookie cards, and Spurrier only has 2 rookie cards in that top set. So I would always say get the rookie card autograph. I think you're always going to do well with it, unless it's like a PSA. Actually, I take that back, because like even on like a Ricky Henderson, like if you had Ricky Henderson autograph something that was a 7 or 8 or a 9. The truth on that is the cards are so expensive, but now he passed away. Like, I think about Mantle autographing. His cards are so expensive. You find like 1s and 2s, So I would say number 1, rookie card. Number 2 is where do they assign it? If you have the control over it. So like on this Maddox, this is a very hard card to sign because you'd probably want him to sign there, but then he's covering his name.
Right.
You could sign the jersey, but it would look weird. I think you just, you took what you got when you were a kid.
Handed it to him.
Right. You say, hey, dude, figure this out, dude. Glad you didn't sign on the back because that kind of would have looked weird. But when you're dealing with cards now, you think about the placement of where the autograph is going for 2 reasons. One is that, can you be able to see it? But then 2, we'll be able to grade it and be able to recognize if it's a 10 or higher, or 10 autograph grade. So those are 2 factors, and then the third factor is the condition of the card. If this card was in 1 condition, I don't know if I'd want to get it autographed. I would just bite the pill and try and buy a 3 or 4 level graded card and get it autographed. So there's 3. Those are the things that I would consider. Inscriptions, or we always talk about inscriptions. If you can fit an inscription on a card, it always does really well. We just sold on our eBay. I remember Javi Lopez signed a Chick Stick the long ball. Well, his autographs typically sell for $30-$40. That one's over $150. You know what I mean? So if you can get things like that done on cards and special inscriptions, they usually do well.
Yeah, awesome stuff. And then I guess the last thing, if that is an option, you said cracking them open. I know Gronk was spiking your stuff.
You could call him up
last year. Like, what should I do? Like, do I try to do it, or I need a professional?
I probably want me to do it. I'd enjoy watching you do it, though. If you want to do it on here, let's say you see crack a slab. I think we're in a time period now where cracking slabs is just a normal thing.
Okay.
Right? It used to be frowned upon, I think. There's other things that I think people are frowning upon now, polishing cards and altering cards that way. But I think now if you don't like your card in the grade, crack it out. It doesn't have to say 4 on it. Crack it out. And then sometimes people don't agree with the grade. And I've seen this before where people see a 6 and they crack it out and they're like, there's nothing wrong with the card. Send it back in and it gets an 8 or a 9. Wow. So this does happen on the grading side. We have to remember they're human as well. There's a human error side. But we can do that. I'll get you the shears.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, hopefully you guys learned something today. A lot of great stuff we always try to provide you each and every Meelypod hobby podcast. And next time we do it, we will be talking about the National and all the things that are going on. Maybe a baby, maybe a done store. Like there's a lot going on in Jameel's world. But remember, if you're here locally in Gainesville, stop by the shop. A lot of really cool things that Jameel always has going on, and certainly up in South Carolina as well. All right, that'll do it for Jameel. I'm Jeff. We'll talk to you next time on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast.
Thank you for joining us. We will see you next Thursday at noon.